We're given the vertices of triangle ABC, and we want to do two things. For part A, we're going to find each side length of the triangle, and then we're going to use that information for part B to decide what kind of triangle it is. So the first thing we have to do is find the side length of each side of the triangle. When they're asking us for side length, what they're really asking us to do is find the distance. So we need the distance formula, so I'm going to write that up here. All right, and then I think it's nice to draw a picture because it helps you to see exactly what sides we need to find. So there are three sides we need to find the distances for. One of them is AB, and that would be this side of the triangle right here. The other one is BC, so that would be the bottom of our triangle. And then the last one is AC, or you could call it CA, would be the same thing, and that is this side of the triangle on the left side. So we have three sides to find. We're going to use the appropriate points, plug them into the distance formula, and then that'll be that. So let's work on AB first. So AB, we're going to use the points A and B. I'm going to label my points x1, y1, x2, y2. And then we're going to plug them into the distance formula. And what I like to do is set up my distance formula. So I put in all of my parentheses and the subtraction and the squares, and then all I have to do is plug in my numbers. So x2 minus x1 is 1 minus 2. y2 minus y1 is negative 3 minus 2. What I'm going to do next is I would use my calculator, and I would figure out what number goes underneath the radical. And that number is 26. 26 is not, we could break it down. So we could say that 26 is 2 times 13, but then those are both prime numbers, so I can't do anything more. I can't simplify this radical. So the square root of 26 is what it is. Now we're going to do the same thing for BC. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to erase my x1, y1 and put it on point C. And then I'll leave x2, y2 on point B. So I'm doing the exact same thing, I'm just using different points now. So I'm setting up my formula. And now I'm going to plug in, oh sorry, this should be a 1. All right, so now I have to do x2 minus x1, so that's 1 and negative 1. And then y2 minus y1 is negative 3 minus 0. And again, I would just plug in only the stuff that's under the radical, so don't actually put in the square root to your calculator. And it's going to give you 13. And 13 is a prime number, so I can't break down that radical. And then for my last one, I have to use A and C, those points. So I am going to erase my labels on B, and I'm going to make this x2, y2. And now we can use points A and C and plug them in. So x2 minus x1 would be 2 and negative 1. y2 and y1 are 2 and 0. Okay. And then if you plug in everything that's under the radical into your calculator, you again will get 13. So we're done with part A. We figured out all three side lengths. For part B, it asks us to classify the triangles using on its sides and angles. So we can answer the question about what kind of triangle it is based on its sides right now. Remember that there are three kinds of triangles. There's scalene, which means none of the sides have the same length. Isosceles means that two have the same length. And equilateral means that all three are the same. So if you look at our three numbers that are up here, I can see that these two are the same. So that means I have two sides that are the same, so this would be an isosceles triangle. And then in order to classify it based on its angles, we have to use that converse of the Pythagorean theorem. So that is saying, is c squared, how does c squared relate to a squared plus b squared? Is it equal? Is it greater than? Is it less than? So remember that c has to be the biggest side. That means the square root of 26 has to be our c. So it's going to be the square root of 26 squared. And then I'll do the square root of 13 squared plus the square root of 13 squared, because that would be our a and our b, and it doesn't matter which one is which. When you square a square root, they cancel each other out. So this leaves me with just 26 and then 13 plus 13. 13 plus 13 is 26. So that means these two things are equal. And when you get that the two things are equal, that means it's a right triangle. So I know that based on its sides, it's isosceles, and then based on its angles, it's a right triangle.